Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to review our instrument families. When we talk about musical instruments, we often talk about them as being part of a family. That's because, just like in human families, the instruments in a particular family are related to each other. They are often made of the same types of materials, they usually look similar to one another, and they produce sound in comparable ways. Some are larger and some are smaller, just as parents are bigger than children. Now, let's talk about what the instrument families are. We have four instrument families: the brass family, the woodwind family, the string family, and the percussion family. Let's start with the brass family. If you think the brass family got its name because the instruments are made of brass, you're right. This family of instruments can play louder than any other in the orchestra and can also be heard from far away. Although their ancestors are known to have been made of wood, tusks, animal horns, or shells, today's modern instruments are made entirely of brass. Brass instruments are essentially very long pipes that widen at their ends into a bell shape. The pipes have been curved and twisted into different shapes to make them easier to hold and play. Like the woodwind family, brass players use their breath to produce a sound, but instead of blowing into a reed, you vibrate your own lips by buzzing them against a metal cup-shaped mouthpiece. This mouthpiece helps to amplify the buzzing of the lips, which creates the sound. Most brass instruments have valves attached to their long pipes. The valves look like buttons. When you press down on the valves, they open and close different parts of the pipe. You change the pitch and sound by pressing different valves and buzzing your lips harder or softer. The brass family members that are most commonly used in the orchestra include the trumpet, French horn, trombone, and tuba. If you look up here, here's the trumpet. Here's the French horn, kind of wrapped around into a circle, isn't it? The trombone is here, and remember that trombone I have that's super, super long when I push the slide all the way out? And the tuba, the very big grandfather of the orchestra, the tuba. I used to have a tuba. I don't have one anymore. All right, let's go on to the woodwind family. The instruments in this family all used to be made of wood, which gives them their name. Today they are made of wood, metal, plastic, or some combination. They are all basically narrow cylinders or pipes with holes, an opening at the bottom end and a mouthpiece at the top. You play them by blowing air through the mouthpiece, that's the wind in woodwind, and opening or closing the holes with your fingers to change the pitch. Metal caps called keys cover the holes of most woodwind instruments. The mouthpieces for some woodwinds, including the clarinet, oboe, and bassoon, use a thin piece of wood called a reed, which vibrates when you blow across it. The clarinet uses a single reed made of one piece of wood, while the oboe and bassoon use a double reed made of two pieces joined together. Just as with the stringed instruments, the smaller woodwinds play higher pitches, while the longer and larger instruments play the lower notes. The woodwind family of instruments that we're going to look at includes the flute, oboe, clarinet, and bassoon. And there are many, many more woodwind instruments, but these are the kind of base level ones. So here's the flute up here, and you all know that's the instrument that I play the best. Here's the oboe, and if you look very closely, you can see that tiny, tiny reed that he has, that double reed. The clarinet down here. And the bassoon is over here. The bassoon is very, very long. It also plays a double reed like the oboe does, but it's a much bigger reed. All right, let's move on to the string family. When you look at a string instrument, the first thing you'll probably notice is that it's made of wood. So why is it called a string instrument? The bodies of the string instruments, which are hollow inside, allow sound to vibrate within them. They're made of different kinds of wood. But the part of the instrument that makes the sound is the strings, which are made of nylon, steel, or sometimes gut. The strings are played most often by drawing a bow across them. The handle of the bow is made of wood, and the strings of the bow are actually horsehair from horses' tails. Sometimes the musicians will use their fingers to pluck the strings, and occasionally they will turn the bow upside down and play the strings with a wooden handle. The strings are the largest family in the orchestra, and they come in four sizes: the violin, which is the smallest, the viola, the cello, and the biggest, which is the double bass. Sometimes that's called the contrabass. The smaller instruments, the violin and viola, make high-pitched sounds, while the larger cello and double bass produce low and rich sounds. They are all similarly shaped with curvy wooden bodies and wooden necks. The strings stretch over the body and neck and attach to small decorative heads where they are tuned with small tuning pegs. And if you look over here, here's my smallest instrument, the violin. The viola, just a little bit bigger than the violin. The cello, which you play kind of like around the cello, it's very big. And then the biggest instrument of all, it's over 6 feet tall, is the double bass. And up here in the corner, I've included one more instrument. Do you know what this is called? That's right, it's called the harp. It is a beautiful instrument, and you only play that by plucking or strumming it. All of these instruments in the orchestra you play with a bow, the violin, viola, cello, and bass, but the harp you play by plucking. All right, our last family, and the family with the most instruments, is the percussion family. The percussion family has the most instruments in the orchestra, like I said. Percussion instruments include any instrument that makes a sound when it is hit, shaken, or scraped. It's not easy to be a percussionist because it takes a lot of practice to hit an instrument with the right amount of strength, in the right place, and at the right time. Some percussion instruments are tuned and can sound different notes, like the xylophone, the timpani, or the piano, and some are untuned with no definite pitch, like the bass drum, cymbals, or castanets. Percussion instruments keep rhythm, make special sounds, and add excitement and color. Unlike most of the players in the orchestra, a percussionist will usually play many, many different instruments in one piece of music. The most common percussion instruments in the orchestra include the piano, timpani, xylophone and marimba, cymbals, triangle, snare drum, bass drum, tambourine, maracas, gong, chimes, and castanets. And if you look over here, this is all those percussion instruments all laid out. Now, only 1 or 2 people will be playing all of these instruments. Sometimes I have seen orchestras with 3 percussionists, but there usually aren't very many of them. But those 2 to 3 people play all of those instruments. It's pretty amazing. And you can see them running back and forth between instruments. And then if you look up here, you see the piano. The piano is a string instrument because of the strings inside, but it is also a percussion instrument because inside the piano, there are little hammers that hit the strings. And that's why we call it percussion. Now, let's practice. I'd like for you to go on this website with your family, with your parents. They can help you get here. You just click on the link on the document that I sent your parents, and you can sort the instruments into their families. You might see instruments you don't know, but see if you can figure out what they are based on how they're played, or maybe what they're made out of. Like if you saw a stringed instrument that was made of metal, it probably is still a stringed instrument, right? It might look a little bit different than the violin, but it still has strings and it still makes the sound with the strings, right? See what you can do with that. And then after that, I'd like for you to watch a performance of an orchestra with your family. All of these awesome orchestras and symphonies are offering free videos of their performances, and you can go onto their websites, any of them, and watch a performance of a live orchestra. So I'd love for you to do that, and then let me know what you thought. What piece did you listen to? Did you see instruments that you knew? Did you see instruments that you didn't know? Let me know. And if you have any questions at all, you can email me at atarwater@broadwateracademy.org. All right, boys and girls, I miss you, and I hope you're doing awesome, and I hope you had fun today learning about instrument families. See you next week. Bye!